Hey, Nora. So, we've been really diving deep into the golden age, all the glitz and glamour, the stars, the absolute power of the studios. But everything eventually comes to an end. What really, kicked off the decline for Hollywood's golden age? What was the big turning point?
Oh, Mark, that's such a great question, and it's complicated. It wasn't one single thing, but if I had to pick, I'd say the Paramount Decree of 48 was like monumental. Seriously. Before that, studios owned everything: production, distribution, and even the theaters. It was this totally integrated monopolistic machine. But the Supreme Court said, nope, that's not happening anymore. They had to divest their theaters. And that just pulled the rug right out from under their whole business model, essentially.
Wow. So they couldn't just force their films into their own theaters anymore. That's huge. I mean, it must have completely changed how they thought about what they were making, right? Like, they actually had to compete for screens.
Exactly. They suddenly had to make films that people wanted to see, not just films they could force into their own venues. It opened the door for independent theaters and eventually for independent filmmakers to get their foot in the door. It really was a massive shift. But then you also had like the rise of television coming along right after, which was, another punch to the gut for the studios. Yeah, so the Paramount Decree was like the legal hammer. But then television? Oh, television was the cultural game changer. Suddenly people didn't have to leave their homes to be entertained. They could just plop down on the couch and watch Milton Berle for free. Movie attendance just plummeted throughout the 1950s. It was a mass exodus from the cinemas.
That's wild to think about. I mean, going to the movies was such a big deal, a whole event, right? Dressing up, going out, and then suddenly, boom, it's just in your living room. What did the studios even do to try and fight that or, adapt?
Oh, they tried everything. They really did. They tried widescreen formats like CinemaScope and VistaVision to give audiences something they couldn't get on the small screen. And they went all in on things like 3D and Technicolor, making movies these huge, extravagant spectacles. Ben-Hur, The Ten Commandments, anything to make it an experience TV couldn't replicate. But the thing is, well, it was kind of a losing battle against the convenience of TV for everyday entertainment. The core audience had just, shifted.
So they were trying to out-spectacle TV. That makes sense. But it also sounds expensive. And I guess it meant they couldn't just churn out dozens of smaller films like they used to, right?
Absolutely, Mark. That's another huge piece of it. The old studio system thrived on its contract players. They owned the stars, essentially. They could, demand roles, control their image, put them in whatever film they wanted. But as the studios weakened, stars started demanding more freedom, more control, better pay. Guys like Jimmy Stewart and Kirk Douglas even formed their own production companies. The power dynamic totally flipped.
Oh, that's fascinating. So the stars weren't just products anymore. They became their own brands, their own, entrepreneurs. Did that change the type of star, too? Like, away from the groomed, perfect Hollywood ideal?
Totally. You started seeing the rise of method acting. Actors like Marlon Brando, James Dean, later Robert De Niro. They brought this raw, intense, often gritty realism that was a complete departure from the polished, somewhat idealized performances of the Golden Age. Audiences were, craving something more authentic, something that reflected a changing, more complex world. The traditional hero was, being redefined. The perfect smile and the dashing leading man, well, they weren't always what people wanted anymore.
So it's not just the end of an era for the studios, but also for an entire style of acting and stardom. This shift towards realism, I mean, that really laid the groundwork for modern cinema, didn't it? So even though the golden age ended, I mean, its impact clearly didn't just vanish, right? What are some of those things from that era that we still see, like influencing films today, or even just our culture?
Oh, absolutely, Mark. The legacy is like immense. First off, just think about the genres. Westerns, film noir, screwball comedies, musicals, these were all perfected really during the Golden Age. And they've been constantly referenced, parodied, or reimagined ever since. Modern filmmakers still draw from those archetypes. Quentin Tarantino, for example, is like a total master of referencing those classic genres.
That's true. You see nods to Casablanca or Citizen Kane everywhere. But beyond specific genres, what about the technical side? Like, did they pioneer techniques that are still foundational?
Totally. Think about cinematography, lighting, editing. So many foundational techniques were developed and refined. Orson Welles with Citizen Kane, the deep focus, the innovative camera angles, that was revolutionary. And it's still taught in film schools today. The narrative structures, the way stories are told, the emotional arcs, those patterns were established. It's like the grammar of cinema, you know? And we still speak that language, even if we've added new words. And it's not just in filmmaking itself, you know? The Golden Age really shaped American culture, and honestly, global culture too. The idea of the movie star as this larger-than-life icon, the fashion trends, the aspirational lifestyles portrayed on screen, they became part of our collective consciousness. Hollywood became like the dream factory.
Right. Like, when you think of classic glamour, you immediately picture Audrey Hepburn or Grace Kelly or Humphrey Bogart in a trench coat. It's almost like imprinted in our DNA. Even if people haven't seen the movies, they know the look.
Exactly. The myths of Hollywood, the romanticized versions of the lives of stars, they persist. And the way films from that era dealt with themes, love, war, societal change, good versus evil, they laid the groundwork for how we, as a culture, discuss and process those big ideas through storytelling. Even our modern blockbusters, as different as they seem, are built on those narrative foundations. We're still telling versions of those stories, just with more CGI. So, in a way, the end of the Golden Age wasn't really an end, but more of a transformation. It just evolved into something new, carrying all that amazing history and influence forward. That's exactly it, Mark. It didn't just die, it morphed, and that's why we're still talking about it, right? Because the stories, the artistry, the sheer ambition of that era, it continues to resonate. People still discover these films for the first time and are, blown away by the craftsmanship, the performances, the timelessness of the narratives. It's not just nostalgia, it's a recognition of foundational greatness.
It's true. I mean, you can watch a film from the 40s or 50s today and still be completely captivated. It doesn't feel dated in the way some things from, say, the 80s might. The storytelling just holds up. It's really remarkable.
Yeah, and I think that's the ultimate legacy. It created a canon of work that's not just historically important, but genuinely, enduringly entertaining and thought-provoking. It taught us how to dream in celluloid. And even though the studio system eventually crumbled and television became king, the spirit of that golden age, that magic, it's absolutely still there, informing everything we watch, everything we create. It's just got a different sparkle now, you know?
A different sparkle indeed. Nora, this has been, truly incredible. What a journey through Hollywood's golden age.